Start that up. And for those who just joined, I'm pasting the agenda in the chat. Yeah, we're good on recording. All right. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our first quarterly Hyku Commons User Group meeting of 2026. I am not sure that we did any of these in 2025. If we did, it was the first part of 2025. When we were very active with the previous IMLS grant, which was very development focused, we were having these pretty regularly and fell into a quarterly cadence and just sort of fell out of that last year. But um, one of the outputs of the Haiku support team, which I'll talk a little bit more about here in a minute, has been to revive the regular cadence of these user group meetings. And in addition, one of the things that we identified that would be maybe useful, interesting to people, inject a bit of energy into this, is that at least some of these user group meetings we would open up more broadly to the broad Haiku user base or the Samvera community to participate in as well. And I think going forward, we will try to solicit some folks from institutions outside of Haiku Commons consortial users to present at some of these, just to bring in different perspectives about how people are managing their repositories, how people are using the software, challenges that they've faced and found uh, solutions to, or at least adaptations to. So that's the plan going forward. So we expect to have another one of these in the summer, another one in the fall. We will announce dates as we get closer to them. Um, but so I'll begin by giving some updates. Well, yeah, so let me go over the agenda really quickly. So I'll begin by giving some updates both about our implementation of Haiku in Haiku Commons and also about developments in the Haiku world more broadly and calibrate the relative timelines between those. Then I've invited a couple of our repository managers um, to present about some very interesting work that they've been doing independently, landed on some AI metadata, AI generated metadata uh, tools and workflows. And so we'll see how those are going from them, and then open the floor for questions for either of our presenters or general discussion about the topic. And then if AI metadata generation is not enough to fill the remainder of the time, more, just open discussion. So I'll start with updates in Haiku. Currently, there is a release candidate, and I'm going to go ahead and demo some of this actually. So let me share my screen. And there are links in the agenda to the release notes for the current Haiku release version, which is version 7.0.rc for a release candidate. That's undergoing kind of final bug fixes and getting a couple of accessibility issues addressed before it goes to a full main release. But we're expecting that anytime now, possibly by the end of this week. Simultaneous with that, we are upgrading the version of Haiku in Haiku Commons, so the one that all of your repositories run on if you're a Hyku Commons user, to that current release candidate. So we're actually jumping the gun just a little bit on waiting for that to become a main release. And the main things that is going to bring in are it will flexible metadata will be enabled in our implementation, which will enable us to configure our metadata work types on a tenant level. So your repository can have some customization in the metadata um, of your work types. And then also more granularly than that, if you need to have multiple admin sets and each one have slightly different metadata configuration, then flexible metadata can do that as well. I know that for a lot of our institutions who are looking to migrate out of other systems, the need to have custom metadata has been a blocker there. And also sometimes you just need an additional field that is not already present in the metadata. I know the transcript field is one that's been a blocker for some institutions who are uploading, medieval manuscripts or handwritten documents, and you want to provide a transcript in the metadata. Now we can just add that through flexible metadata. And where that will exist in the app, if you look at the in the dashboard, this metadata profile section. And this is something that we're not necessarily expecting that repository administrators will do the direct work on. We're going to set up a form to request basic changes, like adding an additional field or changing a field from required to not required. Those kind of, I think, what I expect to be very common types of changes. And then I will go in, make that change, upload it to your system. And then if a repository administrator needs more bespoke, more customized metadata configuration work, then we'll schedule a meeting and kind of talk through that. But this is, I think approachable for people who are familiar with working in library systems, working with metadata. But it's verging on technical. So it's something that we do have resources. I conducted a 90-minute workshop uh, late last summer for the Samvera community that we have the recording of that. So if you really wanted to kind of do a boot camp and teach yourself how to do the edits then yourself, then the tools will exist for that. But we're not for a lot of types of changes, we're not making that a requirement. But the way that it works is you have a metadata profile, what the system calls an M3 schema, and you can download. So you'll start with 1.0 is what a new repository would have. So that's what all of ours will have once flexible metadata is enabled. And then you can just download that as a YAML file, make edits to the YAML file, and then upload it, import it as a new one. And then you'll have a 2.0 profile that'll be your active profile in the system. And works that are in the repository are uh, they correspond with the metadata profile version under which they were uploaded. And so as you update the metadata profile to newer versions, that doesn't cause any kind of breaking changes for older works. I don't know if we go to the oldest works in here, we might find some that were uploaded under earlier versions. This is a demo tenant, by the way, on Hyku demo. So this is not actually in the Hyku Commons environment currently. But so that doesn't cause any breaking changes with works that were uploaded under a previous version. But then that new profile version is enforced. So if you go in and edit a work that was uploaded under an older schema, then in order to save those edits, it has to at least meet any new requirements of the updated profile. And then when it saves it, it'll update it to the most recent profile version. We're so close. This is a demo tenant. This is not one of the demo tenants that I manage. This is Notch8 has been using this for 7 testing, so I have no idea what all is in here. It just didn't want to do it. Okay. But so that's how that works. And so then you can make changes there. So flexible metadata will be enabled, and we will have a format for requesting those changes going forward. A couple of other things that are really exciting about what's built into 7 is, I mean, there's all sorts of back-end technical stuff. There's a Rails upgrade. You can see the list on the GitHub release notes. But from a user standpoint, if you go to importers, I don't know. I feel like I did something in here that the system is not happy about. But under within the importer within the importer dashboard, you have the option to download um, a system generated importer template that'll show each of the work types and then which metadata fields are enabled for that work type. And then for all of the ones that are enabled, it'll identify which ones are required and which ones are optional. And the really exciting, so that, that's great. We have our own templates, but the thing that's exciting about that is that that dynamically updates as you make changes in your system. There are two places in the Hyku dashboard, or in there are two places in your Hyku app where you can make changes that would be relevant to the metadata. And one of those is what I just showed with flexible metadata. You can make actual changes to the metadata profile. Then also in your settings, now I am in a Hyku Commons. Yeah, in your settings, you have the field mappings that Bulkrax uses, and so you can add alternative forms for column labels. You can define what things split on. Most things split on the pipe character. Maybe I'm getting more in the weeds than I need to. But you can make changes there, and either one of those, uh, if you make those changes, then the template that you can download from the importer is will reflect those changes. So you can always have a template that matches the actual conditions within your repository, which as repositories go down the road of customizing metadata, is going to be more and more important for enabling centralized support of unique tenants, right? If that makes sense. The other major thing that's coming in with 7 is a large number of accessibility improvements. The current application of Haiku, as of a VPAT that was done in summer of 2025, it was WCAG 2.1 AA, and the goal with 7 is to be 2.2 AA compliant, but a VPAT has to be run on a formal release. It can't be run on a release candidate under the policies of the VPAT. So as soon as it goes to a main release, we have some community volunteers who are going to be running a VPAT. So we will have an up-to-date VPAT on that. And so, yeah, those are the big things that are coming with 7. As in terms of scheduling, um, as I said, we have that work going on right now. So it might even be by the end of this week, we'll be running on the 7.0 release candidate. And then there is one other area of Haiku development that's relevant for us, not quite as immediately as the 7.0 update, but in the near future. And that is that there's been a community funded effort to do a lot of improvements to the importer. If I have this linked in the agenda as well, but you can see, and if you look here, you can see that this is actually this will not be in 7, but this is there's a current deployment of the importer improvement work, and there's a guided import. Again, there's something going on with the demo site that's not playing friendly at the moment. So I don't know if I'll be able to show you live, but you can see this is what you see if you go through that guided import. It does upfront validation. It'll do a preview of the hierarchies that are built into your import. So if you have uh, collections and then works in those collections and then child works of those works, it'll show you, this collection with this many works in it, this many child works of those works, and so on. Um, Looking to see if one of these screenshots has the um, has that preview. But this is a pretty thoroughly detailed list of screenshots. You can see all sorts of, even if you can't do um, a live demo of the validator, you can see a pretty detailed set of yeah, here's an example. So you see the collection and then the works that are within the collection. So this really goes through in a very visual way, very nuts and bolts way, all of the different new functionality of that. And so the pathway for that to come into Haiku Commons for us is first it will be um, so BulkRax is its own software that it is plugged in to Haiku essentially. So this will go into the new BulkRax version, and then in a probably a 7.1 release, Haiku will upgrade to the most recent BulkRax version, and so it will bring it in at that point. And then Haiku Commons, we will upgrade from 7.0 to 7.1 probably, and bring that in. So that it in the near future, there's not a set date on that necessarily, but I would expect by middle of the year, we probably will see this in Haiku Commons. But it is in the demo environment currently. And what that means from a practical perspective is if you are running an import and you have it's giving you one of its ambiguous error messages. Um, if you contact me and for troubleshooting, which uh, I would encourage you to do so, but if you contact me, then I can take it into the demo environment, run it against the validator, and very quickly come back with a diagnosis on that and uh, a corrected file, zip file or CSV. The validator, it does a really great job. You can see all of the steps of validation that it has in there. It'll make some recommendations towards fixing certain types of errors, but it will diagnose errors very, very well. And one other thing that comes in with this, in addition to the validation, is they made the trying to think of how to describe this. They made the read architecture of how it looks at the files much more robust and much more flexible. So previously, we had to be very careful. I say previously. Currently, we have to be very careful with how we structure a zip file, for example, right? You can't have a folder that contains your files folder and your CSV and then zip that top folder because that adds an additional hierarchical level. And the BulkRax importer does not drill down, look inside that folder and say, hey, is there something inside this folder? It just sees that at the top level, there's not a CSV to tell it what to do. And so it does nothing, right? Like that's a known issue. And that's something that we all run into from time to time. Uh, once we get to this updated, improved bulk importer, that is no longer an issue. It will search much more, I don't know, thoughtfully within the zip file until it finds that CSV. Also, the strict naming convention on the files folder has to be uncapitalized, has to be called files. That has been relaxed, so you can name your files folder kind of whatever you want, and as long as it and the CSV are bundled together at the same hierarchical level, the system will sort of compare them and be able to bring them in. So it's going to reduce a lot of the potential for human error. It's just much less of a persnickety little machine. Um, so that's all incoming. One other thing I'll say, and then I want to hand it over to Amanda briefly before we get our speakers in. But the Haiku support team started meeting at the beginning of this year. I think we had a kickoff meeting in December, and then this year we started. And so that's an expansion of the kind of community support, liaising with the developers and troubleshooting support that previously Amanda and Carl and I had kind of taken on ourselves. And so the folks who make up the Hyku support team are repository administrators from Palni and Palsy schools who are kind of power users and interested in um, helping to um, expand services and collaboration and what we're doing. And so this, like I said, this meeting today is one of the outputs of that, and there will be more going forward. We meet on the, what is it, the second Tuesday? Is that what that works out to? Yeah, second Tuesday of each month during this time slot. So this is actually taking the place of what would be our normal meeting time. If you are interested in checking out or potentially joining the support team, then let me know and I can get you an invite to that meeting as well. So now I will hand over to Amanda to talk about another initiative.
Okay. Thanks everyone, or thanks Nick Don. Thanks everyone for attending. I actually have two things. I added one thing to the agenda. So the first is a call out for your repository stories. This is something that we've been talking about in our user group or our support group meetings, and also in the Samvera space. We really want to hear what everyone is doing with their repositories and to highlight those stories. So if you have a collection that you're really proud of, or a great workflow hack that you'd like to share with others, please reach out to me or Nick Don so that we can help you highlight those things. So some examples of how we would like to share what you're working on are perhaps bringing you into the user group to do a report out series similar to what we've done here today or planned for here today. We also have a Haiku for Consortia blog that we maintain, and we would love to have continuing content on that blog to highlight some of the special work you're doing. And we also have a PALNI, so this is on the PALNI side, a scholarly communications newsletter that we're thinking about recruiting content for. So those are all really good opportunities for you to share what you're doing. And then there's also the Samvera Stories opportunity that I presented about in the base camp. So just wanted to do a ping for that. We really like the idea of hearing firsthand what some of the things are that you're doing. That's great, Carly. Thank you for sharing. Appreciate that. And then the other thing I wanted to highlight, and I actually just posted in the base camp about this, is the Samvera Community Sprint event that's coming up pretty soon. It's the 23rd to the 27th of March. This is a really good opportunity for folks to get more involved in the Samvera community. So you don't necessarily have to be a coder. They're looking for metadata specialists, repository administrators, and coders to help with a themed event, sprint event. So I put a link to more information in the agenda, and you can follow up with me if you have any questions. Pass it back to you, Nick Don.
Thank you, Amanda. That's great. Um, Now I want to turn it over to our two presenters. And Ed, I'll have you go first. And also, Jen's presentation will be considerably shorter than yours. So don't feel like you have to cut yourself off to fit in an entire second presentation.
Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. That's awesome. First, the bad news. I forgot my reading glasses today, so I'm going to be navigating it with blurry letters in front of me. So I'm going to try to do the best I can, but recognize it might take a click or two to get to where I want to be. I'm guessing I can share my screen though, Nick Dawn. Is that correct?
Yeah, if it doesn't work, I'll just make you a co-host.
Okay, let me check here. Yep, I'm disabled, it looks like.
Okay, should be good now.
Okay, so now I should be able to share. What I want to share is my whole second screen. Okay, so that screen should be up. I'm guessing you can see that okay. And not going to really look,
Yeah,
not going to really read it yet. I got to stage a couple pictures here. So um, the beginning. First of all, let me give this caveat. I'm the director of the library here. I'm not an archivist. I'm not really the person who runs repositories at any great level. But as they say, necessity is the mother of invention, and I had a real need to get some things accomplished. So what you're looking at right now is part of my problem, which when I came here to DeSales 4 years ago, I took a quick walk into our archive room, and there was about 9 shelves loaded with these posters from long ago, and they were theater presentations. And they weren't really archived in any particular way. But more importantly, I thought, other than just freeing up space, it'd be really great if our alumni would be able to go back and look and see some of the performances and things that they did. So that was really the catalyst for this little project. So I have probably at least several hundred of these to process. And then we didn't really have any money for a fancy copy station, so I had my old digital Rebel camera and a table available to me, and I bought a couple lights and I put them up. So once again, this isn't state of the art anything. This is kind of like let's find a way to get this done. And the idea then is as I can lay down these images or these posters on this table, try to center them in that square the best I can, take pictures of them, go in. Sometimes I have to do some post editing, like rotating the image or something like that, but pretty minimal work, I'll say. So my journey started off in really before I was ever involved in libraries. I was a technologist, so I used to do a lot of programming and things like that, but I haven't done any programming in decades. So, so to say I'm behind at times is certainly accurate. The interesting thing is that I listen to a lot of AI podcasts. I travel about an hour every day back and forth to work, so I have an immense amount of time to listen to podcasts, and I'm kind of fascinated with the whole AI and where it's going. Large language models, image recognition, voice to text, all of the things that AI can do for you. This screen that I have up here right now is not something that I typed in, but you'll see that there's a right in the middle here. Can you see the screen okay? Enough to at least read it? I don't know if I can zoom in on this anymore.
Looks good to me.
Okay. But you'll see where this says metadata prompt. Well, this was something that I actually just spoke into Gemini. Okay, and it wasn't obviously I didn't say, hey Gemini, here's my metadata prompt. I gave it a pretty casual statement. And then over time, as I was refining what I was trying to accomplish, it eventually builds this thing out behind the scenes, right? So there's really no kind of magic going on with AI. It's building code behind the scenes and doing everything via code. So uh, my initial idea for this thing was what I wanted to do is just have a directory living on my local machine that I could drop some images into, it go out, analyze those images, and then pull off the associated metadata that I needed for our repository. And so this was my first attempt at it, and really it was a pretty crude attempt. It actually did work ultimately. It took me probably 4 days of changing things around to get it to do what I wanted it to do. But at the end of the day, what it would do for me is it would go out, look at these images, strip off the metadata that I needed, and I'll show you that here in a little bit, and then update a CSV file that I could then build the zip file with to import. into Hyku. Well, and it worked. It actually worked. I had some problems with it, but it didn't have a nice user interface and it wasn't very good. So shortly after I had this working, I heard that through AI Studio, Google's AI Studio, you could build applications. So what I did, I'm going to drag this over just to show you. Can you see this screen now that says Act 1 Archive Agent?
Yes.
Okay. So what I did was I took that entire script that was created using Python. And Python was really tedious because I had to install the Python environment. I had to integrate it with Visual Studio so that I could go in and edit it. It was a bunch of stuff that non-programmers really would not want to dive into. And even people who are technology savvy, it just seems like there's better ways to accomplish some of these things this day. So anyway, I copied this whole thing into the build application within AI Studio, and I'll show you what that looks like here in a minute. But basically, it then produced this web app that I'm looking at right now. And if I go behind the scenes, I can click on this code button and you can see it created a lot of stuff. There's the metadata JSON information. It created a web page like an index.html, created some package pages, things that needed to import in to do all the work. I didn't do any of that. I did not ask it to do that. And as a matter of fact, I'll show you, I created this little presentation that I think will be really interesting, and actually created it within the application build. So it's part of my application now. But if I click on this little icon over here, I had it build me a 10 slide deck of the process that I used to build this thing. So it captured all of my chat data, and I didn't have to type any of this in. So at any rate, so this is what it was. It was a transform in a local automation script into a robust, user-friendly archival tool. So once again, it started out as Python script, but the problem was there was no user interface. I had to hard code all the paths. I had to do the Python. A lot of work to make it happen up front. So the solution, as the build in AI Studio come up with, was to create a browser-based, zero installation required for the end user, gives me immediate feedback to the things that I'm uploading and I'm processing. And basically, all of this stuff is maintained in this app, so I don't really have to go in and modify it anymore. The one thing I did notice is the AI model that I'm using is already outdated, so it tells me I have to use a new one. So I got to go in and recompile this one more time for a new model because it's already changed in about 4 weeks. So that's just to be expected. So at any rate, the idea is what I can do is just drag and drop my images into this folder area. I get an instant preview of the things that it's going to do, and then it will batch process as many of those items as I bring in. Now, once again, I want to be sure to let you know that I am not an expert in metadata or any of that, right? Like, so this idea was for me was to get something up there was usable. I'm going to talk about some enhancements I'm going to do in a future once I show you how this works. So at any rate, it's AI powered on the back end. Right now it says Gemini 2.0 Flash integration. It's going to be Gemini 3 point something Flash integration as soon as I update this, but that's not really all that important. It's just that this stuff is changing weekly. It used to be quarterly, then it was kind of like weekly, and Now, sometimes even daily, there's changes and enhancements to these things. So, at any rate, the human in the loop is the person who supposedly would know what they're doing with the actual metadata, which I'm not claiming. But as a matter of fact, Nick Dawn, you helped me with a couple things, like knowing that some of that metadata was separated with a pipe as opposed to a comma, and I had to go in and fix the app to deal with that. So at any rate, there's a way though to go in and edit the metadata before it ever creates the file that you're going to ingest into the repository. So that's kind of cool. Like if you see something and it didn't do something exactly right, you would be able to go in and just fix this stuff. So the idea then is after it created that metadata, I thought, well, if it could do that, then it probably could create the zip package as well. So I wouldn't have to do yet another manual step. And sure enough, it can. So it creates a CSV file. It puts all the files in a file subdirectory, and then it zips those in the appropriate format so that it can just be ingested in through the import. So here's some of the things that it had to deal with. Some of the things were unknown, and those are things that I will have to go back and fix. Or I noticed like it's actually using the wrong metadata type. It's using something I'll show you here, but something like photos, something as opposed to poster. So I have to be careful to make sure that all of the right types. And I think, as a matter of fact, Nick, Don, that's what's exciting about the thing you just shared, because that importer and that profile you showed where you would be able to download that and get all of that information that you need to build something like this out. So that would be super helpful in doing something like this. So anyway, the end result, it's pretty robust. It's using an API, and I'm going to talk about. Well, let me talk about that in a minute. Or now, the API is an application program interface that gives me direct interface right into whichever AI model I want to do, right? And typically that stuff is not free. It's certainly not free if you're doing things in super high volumes, right? But I can tell you, for me, um, I am on a paid tier, but I never exceed the free tier level. So in all of my testing and the 40 plus things I've loaded so far, I think it's cost me 4 cents of AI time. So, and I don't believe now I'll ever hit that threshold with the rate that I'm putting things into this thing. So, the bad news is the free tier, you used to be able to do that, but now you have to secure even that free tier with a credit card just in case you go over that. But I can tell you, and I'll show you, I haven't went over that at all. So they even this slide deck, they gave me some other things that they said, hey, you could do these things too. They're always selling more AI stuff, right? Like this is a sales pitch slide right here. So I'm gonna ignore this slide right now because I got enough other things to worry about. But there are other things that you could do with this. So how about I do just a really quick demo to show you what this might look like and how it works. So basically what I do, the first step in this thing is I go in and add files that I want to do. And once again, those files came directly from that scan station that I built, that copy station. The only thing that I've done to these files is I trimmed off the frames because I didn't want the frames and the images in the repository. And certainly it could be a lot different, but I'm just going to drop 4 of these in here for right now to show you. And I picked 4 because there's a couple problems that sort of manifest with these as well. So at this point, right now, I have my 4 images, but that's all that's happening. Until I click this run analysis, it won't really do anything. But when I click on the run analysis, you can see right down on the first image already, it says scan, and it's already doing something. So the first one's already done. And you can see it created, this is a matted collection of 3 production photographs from the performance of, here's the resource type. This is the one I'm having a little bit of problems with because if this would have said posters, I would have been gaining statistics of that when I look at all of my works, but because it's production type photo, it's kind of stands on its own, but I don't really have any way of sorting or measuring by that. I can certainly, when I added these to the collection, though, it'll make more sense when I show you that. So there, finished that one, finished actually, so it's done with all 4 already, right? So it has created all the metadata. And at this point, if I did want to go in and edit something, I could actually click right here to edit, and then I could go in and change things. I could go in and change this description, that sort of thing. I'm actually going to need to have it go in and change the date, and that's what I wanted to show you here. Some of our presentations had on the pictures the date of the production when it actually happened here. Some of them had the date of the time frame that the play was from. So if I go and look at this date here, it's from 1986. If I look at the next one over in our town, it's February of 1983. Some of them were from the 1800s because that's when the play was created, right? So at any rate, that's just a little bit of an issue that I have to finish or fix. But at this point, let's just say that I'm okay with this because I'm kind of naive in the way I think about metadata, and this all looks good. At this point, the only thing I need to do is click on this export package. And when I export the package, what it does is it puts in my downloads folder. If I go up here, I'll just go to the folder and show you. See, here's my downloads folder. And this is the file, the zip file it created. And if I double click on that zip file, just so we can look at what's inside, here's the CSV file, and here's the directory with the files in it, right? And if I open up this, let's see if hopefully my machine will open up this fast enough. I don't want to waste too much time here. Things are running a little bit slow on this thing today. In days of old, what I've already showed you would have taken days and days, right? But now we get really upset when something doesn't happen in 30 seconds, right? It's opening on my other screen here, so I'll drag it over here in a minute just to show you. Okay, so basically, there's all of the metadata that it created for those images, and I can expand these all out. But now the idea is let me go back to my web browser here. I could save any of those changes, and I'm just going to open up our repository real quick.
And I do want to I do want to have enough time for Jen to show hers. And I can just glancing at the CSV, I can see there are a couple of things that you would want to play with a little bit before you ran an import. Um,
Right.
but it's interesting to think of AI as getting you almost good enough metadata, and then
Yeah.
we can go in and kind of configure that.
Yeah, and the next thing that I would be doing is I just found out we actually have like the play bills from all these plays. So I
Hmm.
can dump them into a directory as well and have them match the play bill to the images. And then it will actually be pulling additional metadata that would be like, who the
Mm.
actors were, who the
Hmm.
actresses were, things like that, right? So yeah, so I mean that's basically it. But I think the key here is that with very minimal work on my end, I can have some, and this would import this thing to this
Hmm.
very day would import. It just would be missing some elements or things that I need to
Sure.
fix yet. Yeah,
Yeah, that's great.
so I think I'll stop there.
That's great. I think that's super interesting from a design approach. The whole method. Jim, I've made you a co-host, so you should be able to share, and
Woohoo!
I'm excited to hear the update.
It's working. Yay. We hope. You guys see that?
Yes.
The Boodlebox screen?
Yeah.
Where it says, "Hey, Jen." Okay. Through the Council of Independent Colleges, lots of us at Hanover are taking a course on AI. And what that did was give us a free subscription to Boodlebox. Boodlebox is kind of like AI training ground, and it gives you access to a whole slew of AI tools, which is absolutely amazing. As part of this course that we're taking, we have to design some sort of AI bot, and of course, being an archivist. I was like, a photo metadata generator would be amazing. I'm a lone archivist and have lots of different aspects to my job. And so having something that I can shove off on my students potentially to create metadata is amazing. Because as talented and as amazing they are, students don't understand things like subject headings and how this consistency matters. Um, so this is still in the test phase. One of the great things about AI is that it lets you do stuff like this. One of the bad things about AI is that the second there's some sort of new update, everything comes to a crashing halt, which is what happens with this. This has apparently only been the last time I had tested it, the entire system was broken, and so now it's working again, which is exciting. But it means that I haven't had a chance to really test it out since then. Um, So again, this has not been published yet, but this is kind of what the system looks like. So what I can do is put in here a photo, and you can do this theoretically with multiple photos. We'll see how well that works when we get into actual testing of the final once it gets published. And of course, it's going to take forever. There we go. So that's the photo. And all I have to do is say analyze. And what it will do, what it is supposed to do is pop out a CSV file. It's not doing that right now, and I have to figure out why it's not doing that. But we're getting there. Come on. It's thinking. So while it's thinking, Boodlebox actually has an AI bot creator. It's something to help you do this. Okay, so here we go. So what I asked it to give me, and I'll show you this in a second, is it has to have a title. So men watch television in a living room. There's a description of what's actually happening in it. Um, there's instructions on I I asked it to tell it what kind of photograph is this. So it actually will discern between photographic print. It does pretty well with cabinet cards. It does okay with tin types, like in amber types. It's actually more robust than you would think. It has instructions on producing dates if there isn't anything particular. And then it also gives it Library of Congress subject headings. You can change this. So on one of the test ones I did, I was doing a bunch of football photographs and I put, well, number 70 is so-and-so when I said analyze the photographs, and it included that information into the metadata. So with Boodlebot, it's actually a lot of just kind of chucking things into it. And, it actually has, again, with the bot creator, it will help you kind of organize your information a bit. But you tell it what it is and what it's doing. So it's an archivist and it's creating metadata for photographs. You tell it exactly how you want it to format the data. So title, visual description, keywords, that needs some work, photographic formats, date range, blah, blah, blah. So just a real basic, this is what it should look like. I keep telling it to go back over and verify the data isn't exactly before it finishes up. That's what it wants to do. And then it's just, you basically give it a whole lot of rules. So here's the fields. I want title. It's 7 words. It's the visual description. And, this is professional but accessible language. So you can kind of say, I don't want this to be too smart, but I don't want it to, sound like you're talking to first graders. As you go through and test, you can add in things like, I don't like the way it's doing X, Y, and Z. So I can put in some additional requirements as you go through. Boodlebot's great because it allows you to put in some examples so that you can say, no, you keep doing this. I prefer this. Keywords, what it also lets you do is add in on the background lists of information. So theoretically, what is going to happen when I get around to it is there's going to be a folder in the background of campus buildings. And so hopefully what it should be able to do is go through and say, oh, well, that's the Baldridge Gates, and should be able to label it appropriately. I haven't had a chance to do that yet, so we're not quite there. Photographic format, it has the exact same thing. So it's been told that it needs to identify amber types, daguerreotypes, all these other different types of photographs until it gets to like past cabinet cards, and then it's just a photographic print. Date range, I want a specific date, and if you can't give me a specific date, then give me a 20-year date range. I will say this does significantly better than students do. Students have no idea. Oh, it's the 1980s. No, that's 1930. So, and then I've also asked for Library of Congress subject headings, which I need to put pipes in that semicolons, but we're obviously still having some issues with the output. But again, with this new update in Boodlebox, I'm hoping that I can make this work a little bit better. But again, this is designed specifically for my students so that I will have a CSV file, they will have the images, and they should just be able to upload everything together. I'll have decent quality metadata that's fairly consistent. So that's the goal. That's what we're working with. So that's all I got.
Thank you. That is very, very interesting. And it's interesting to see the use of 2 different, commercially available AI products and the different ways of approaching them and the different output formats.
Yeah.
But with kind of the same focus of, that golden minimum, right? Like what is barely sufficient that we can then give to a human and get through some of these bottlenecks of getting digitized materials online. So that's very exciting. We have a few minutes left. I want to ask if anybody has specific questions for Ed and Jen, and thank you both for presenting. But if anyone has specific questions, we can fit those in.
one real quick. So I've been hearing a lot in conversations about AI and metadata generation about whether or not it's necessary to kind of disclose that this metadata was created with AI or not. Have you, either of you, considered that or made a decision either way?
You can go ahead, Ed, if you had something.
No, I was actually going to defer to you because once again, this is kind of out of my wheelhouse. I'm just getting stuff put up so people can see it. And matter of fact, Jen, the one thing I did want to say is I hope that I would love to be able just to take that script that you have and sort of tweak it a little bit and add it into my application so that it would do a lot of those things the right way. So
I
that'd
can
be
send it
very
to you if you
cool.
want. I can send it to you if you want me to.
That'd be very cool.
Okay, we'll do. Um, I think we probably will put something in there that says it's AI generated, just because I think we should. But yeah, since we're still in the testing phase, I haven't quite gotten there yet, but I think we probably will. Just again for clarity's sake, and if there are then any questions that come up later, I think it's also just good tracking for us to say that this was AI generated and I think it's just helpful in the long run for tracking.
Yeah, my sense of the general landscape is that in archives and libraries there is um, a strong um, a perceived need, I guess, for having that kind of labeling, and
Yeah.
that in some ways it feels core to our ethical duties,
Yeah.
right? That's a perception that I think exists, and I wonder if that perception will continue. You know, if 5 or 10 years from now, it's just AI is so ubiquitous that it'll just sort of fall away as a concern. But I think that'll be interesting. But my perception at the moment is that it's seen as that sort of a responsibility that you have
Yeah.
to the user.
Yeah.
Well, great. Well, thank you everybody for attending. We will get this recording posted. If you have any thoughts or questions or anything following up, the Basecamp community discussion fora are open as the campfire and the community conversation. Feel free to post in there. You know, not just if you're having a technical problem, but if you have something you need to get off your chest or have questions for the community or I think that going forward, building some shared tools, for instance, making these kind of scripts available, is something that we'll pursue so that we can all kind of stand on each other's shoulders as we explore this terrain. Mixed metaphor there. Thank you, everybody. We will have another one of these later on this year. We'll let you know dates. And that's it. So I will see you all later.
Thank you.